welcome in to Innovative Strategies Season 3. New day, new time. A little bit later than usual, right? But glad to have you in, Bill. How are you?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, a fresh new start on top of everything else, a little new focus.
Yeah.
We are going to kind of play between what the old show was with helping businesses, small businesses and business owners grow and learn the proper ways in which to build a business. But we're going to mix in a little financial literacy as well. So shows will vary from time to time with the guests. And,
nice.
Today it's kind of a mix. This is really a special day because I have one of my favorite people in the world on today. He was on a year ago this week, for the first time, and blew us all away. And he continues to do so. And I'm blessed to be able to be doing some things outside of just a radio talk show with Joe Rojas, and really looking forward to that and excited. But so let's get it up going. Let's just rock and roll here.
You now hit Joe Rojas's happy space when you had the sound effects in there. Well done.
It's we add new things all the time. It's a ever evolving.
That's
here.
Right.
But Joe Rojas, welcome. His partner Jeff, welcome in as well. Today we wanted to talk a little bit about finance and and understanding your finances as a small business owner, because you probably don't. And maybe 2% of you do, but most don't, and there's a reason for that. It's a lot of numbers. There's a lot of things to learn and understand, and learn how to read, so that it can help you in your business take direction and whatnot. But it takes a lot of time, and business owners don't typically have a lot of time for things that they don't like to do. But so we're going to bring in Joe and Jeff, and they're going to help us better understand what we should be doing and how to do it. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. So I'm so happy to have Jeff here because I'm part of the 2%, right? And that's why I have Jeff. He really gets and understands how to look at the finances and the numbers, and I'm blessed to have an amazing partner who really gets it and can explain it to both our clients and to the people that we work with, and internally to our staff, in a way that we can really get it and understand it. And it's been a real blessing to have that. So, Jeff, why don't you tell them a little bit about you and kind of what you how you got so good.
Well, I don't know how I got so. I guess I've got the MBA, so that helps. And then I did actually work in finance for a large corporation for a number of years. So I suppose that honed my ability to read financial documents. I remember when I started MBA, right? I did not know the difference between a balance sheet and an income statement. And one of my goals, one of the things I wrote down was, I want to learn the difference between a balance sheet and an income statement, and I think that's where a lot of people are. We just don't know, like, all of these terms and methodologies are out there, like, all of these numbers, right? And they just don't mean anything to people.
No, most small business owners, they have the financial sheet. The one they look at is where I started, what I spent, what I took in, and what's left over.
Well, I think mostly what business owners look at. So in my experience, what business owners look at is their bank account.
Yeah.
They look at their bank account, and they look at whether or not they have enough money to pay the things that they have to pay, this month or next month. And there's the problem with that is then you end up spending all of the money that you have, right? Because good, I have $5,000. What can I go spend $5,000 on? You're not planning at all for the future, and the bank account lies. Because the bank account tells you what's in the bank today, but that doesn't tell you anything about what you're owed or how much you owe or how much you're collecting or whether you're charging enough for your services. It's just a statement of fact today. It tells you nothing about your business.
Yeah. And and I don't know if this has happened to other business, but I remember when I started in business, I would look at the bank account and go, oh, there's this much money in the bank, forgetting that I had written a couple of checks and they were still in transit, right? So then I would use the money that was in the bank, and then the check that was in transit would get to where it needed to get. And then I get that phone call. It's like, hey, money that was supposed to be in the bank. I was like, oh, crap, And so then I really got good at understanding that, because that, and that was way in the beginning, 20 years ago, right? In the beginning, when I started, like, it was really, I had no relationship. The only place I would look was the bank. And I had no relationship to the money that I had already sent out. And it's like, but that's part of the money in the bank too.
Yeah.
Look, nobody's raised to understand money, right? My old tale. When I talk in front of people, I say, look, there's two things spouses never talk about: money and sex. I'm here to help you with one of those. But the reality is we're not. When spouses don't talk about it, they don't talk to their kids about it. You don't learn about it at school. So you want to start your own business, it's not easy, right? Because you really don't know anything about money and the flow of money and what these balance sheets and finance sheets can tell you, and how important it is for you to, I think, Joe, we talked yesterday about this. You don't need to follow them on a daily basis, right? You can follow on a weekly basis. But it's important to have somebody else doing those books, because it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and it takes you away from what you do best. But what are, what's a balance sheet? What are the different sheets?
I think it's a good place to start, right? Like, what is a balance sheet versus an income statement? And a balance sheet, right, is a statement of your accounts, right? It's a statement of what you have and what you owe. So it's that snapshot in time, and you can think of your bank statement as being like a balance sheet, right? Because it's telling you one account, what's happening. But what you really want to have is a balance sheet that looks over all of your accounts. What debts do you have out there? What things are coming due? What is due to you? This is actually one of the biggest things that I find with entrepreneurs, is that they completely miss out on the accounts receivable aspect, which is a crucial number. And this is on your balance sheet, and it is the money that is owed to you. And way too often we find that people, as they grow their business, their accounts receivables grow, and they don't even know this. But what that means is they're doing work and they're billing people for their work, but they're not actually collecting any of that cash. And you can see that on your accounts receivable. So that's that's the balance sheet. And then the income statement tells you how much money is coming in, and going out. So it's like what's happening, the motion that's happening, right? How much money you made today, how much money you made last week, how much money you spent. So all of the expenses and income that are happening on a daily or weekly basis are happening on the income statement. And that's sort of a cumulative thing that grows over time, whereas the balance sheet is what's giving you like a moment of time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So now I'm a small business owner, and I'm paying attention to my balance sheet, and I'm seeing my AR, account receivable, at 30, 60, 90 days out. And I'm sitting there going, now I have another problem. How do I collect? How can I get these people to pay me? Now, I know several different methods. I had on my TV show, I interviewed a gentleman who owned a business that actually, legal business, that actually went out and collected. You could hire this person to collect, but that's a last ditch resort.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, what we find is that typically it requires a reminder. One of the things that we do is we just have the people who manage our accounts actually go through and just send a reminder email. Hey, you haven't paid this. Most people are pretty good. Most people are going to pay you. Like most people, you don't have to send the collections. We Bill, I don't know about you, but we get a little lazy in paying our bills, right?
Yeah, the funny thing about that, everybody thinks if the bill's
Yeah.
on the 30th, I'm waiting till the 30th to pay it. And if there's actually an old trick, if you paid it 7 days before it's due, it never hits your credit report. Your credit looks better. But you're right. I mean, we all forget to pay a bill here and there.
Yeah. And our incentives are not set up to make sure that we're chasing down all of the bills that we owe. So it's useful to have a reminder. One of the things we do is set up a reminder system. So use your email marketing system, use your the way that you communicate with your clients, and be sure that you're tracking that as they get to 30 days, as they get to 60 days. There's just an automated reminder that goes out to them that you're communicating with them the situation.
Yeah,
It's
and
so often it's communication.
And it's so interesting. I remember I worked with a company. I came in, and they were $500,000 a year in revenue when I came in to work with them, and they had $250,000 out in receivable, half of their revenue, right?
Half.
And I'm like, what is going on, right? So I come in, and what I realized is that they weren't calling anybody about this money. In the first 2 months that we were there, we collected $67,000 just by making phone calls, right? And just calling people and saying, "Hey, you have this old bill, you haven't paid it. It's oh my God, I'm sorry, I didn't know." Boom, and they paid the bill, right? And they knew
They're charging 38% interest, right? That kind of incentive to pay it. Right?
Yeah, that'd be good, right? If they did that, but what I find is that this happens to entrepreneurs, especially new entrepreneurs, because they feel some way about it. And it's a thing that Jeff and I talk about a lot, and it's going from the employee mindset to the entrepreneur mindset, right? And part of not asking for that money is that you're still operating like an employee. Like there's still somebody out there that's doing that. And when you're an entrepreneur, there's nobody out there that's doing that, right?
Right.
If you're going to operate, you have to make some mindset shifts, right? And as you make those shifts, right, you have to really start to own that piece, that you're the one that's providing the service, and you're the one that needs to get paid, and you're the one that needs to make that phone call, and or you have to have somebody on your team. If you're not alone, if there's more than one of you, then somebody has to be making that phone call and saying, "Hey, you owe us money," and people will pay you if you're in communication with them. But if you're not, then it devolves to the situation, like you said, Bill, where you have to take them to collections, And I think I've been in business for 30 years. In the 30 years that I've been in business, I've probably taken people to collections 2 or 3 times in the 30 years. It hasn't been a whole lot. So what I find is that for the most part, people pay as long as you're in communication with them.
Yeah. Can't you want to chime in?
Yeah. So just a quick question on that. There's a lot of small businesses out there, guys, and it's Joe, you had said you have to change your thought. Well, I've put everything on the line. I've leveraged my house. I took all the risk. I left the job that was paying me, and now I tend to empathize with that because I ain't got the money either. So it's hard for me to ask for it because I'm putting my right. So how do you help a small business owner change that mindset?
That's really great, right? So
hunger helps.
Yeah.
What was that, Bill?
Hunger helps. You get hungry enough, you'll do it.
Yeah, but a lot of small businesses go under because they just don't ask for that money.
But they don't ask for it because they're operating like they're operating from a place of scarcity instead of operating from a place of abundance, right? If I don't have any, they must not have any either. So I better not ask, right? And so one of the mindset shifts that has to happen as you're moving from being an employee to being an entrepreneur. See, the mind shift set has to happen from employee to entrepreneur. I don't care who you are.
you started off as an employee. Even if what you were doing was selling newspapers, doesn't matter. You started off as an employee, and at some point you started your own business, but your mindset stayed the same. Your mindset stayed on the other side. It stayed over on the employee side. So all you did is you transferred the boss power from your boss when you were an employee to your client. And now your client is your boss, and you operate with your client as if they were your boss. And so what has to happen is you have to shift your mindset and get that you are the boss. You're the boss.
Well, why would you sit there and say, well, I don't think he's making money, so I'm going to be easy on him.
Right.
You don't know that. And number one, number two, it's not your problem. You still have to collect because you're still doing business with these people. There's another reason why you don't want to be too aggressive in collecting. Well, but these people are giving me a lot of business. Yeah, but if they're not paying for it,
but if they're not paying for it, it's not good business.
Yeah,
that's right.
And listen, and it's also, you have to get interested in your client. You have to understand how their pay cycles work too, right? So I did a lot of business with hospitals. And you know what I learned about hospitals? You know how everybody's on net 30? Well, hospitals are net 120. They're going to pay you every 120 days, right? So I used to service their printers. When I had my IT company, I serviced the hospital's printers. And I was out there servicing the printers, and I was charging them the same thing that I charge everybody else, right? Mm-hmm. And then at month 4, when they hadn't paid me, I'm like, you know what? You guys suck, blah, 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 yada, 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 and I got mad at them and all this stuff. And they were like, okay, well, we'll take our bills elsewhere. They did. And then eventually they paid me, right? Yeah. And then they came back 4 months later when the other vendor said, boom. And I had this epiphany when they came back and they said, hey, will you service our printers again? I increased the price by 60%. And then I just waited the 4 months. And then after 4 months, I started getting paid. And then I got paid every month from 4 months ago. And I just continued to service the printers for the next 10 years. And I understood that the pay cycle now, they have to be perfect, the invoices, because if your invoice is not perfect, there's a mistake in your invoice, they're going to tell you on day 120 and reset the clock.
Be happy you're not doing business with the state of Illinois, because theirs is net 3 years.
Net 3 years, right?
It is. It's net 3 years.
But they pay, right? So once you understand the pay cycle of the client, if you understand that, so once I understood that pay cycle and I said, okay, this is how this client works, this is what their pay cycle is, I was okay with investing into that because I was charging them more than everybody else. So then they came back to me after 8 or 10 months of being their vendor and said, listen, you're charging us more than everybody else. And I said, yes. And you're making me wait 4 months for my money. I will continue to service you. I promise I will never stop servicing you as long as you pay me every 4 months. And that's how they understood what it was, right? They got it and I got it. And then we both made peace with it. And so
from their point of view, now this is an important business decision.
Yeah.
As a business owner, you're sitting there saying, I'm getting charged more because I'm net 120.
Yeah.
And so that means I'm doing something wrong in my business. I need to start paying out sooner. Maybe I can reduce my costs.
Yeah. Well, if you're a small business, that makes sense. But if you're a hospital and you want to make the interest on that money, that may not.
Well, you also have to consider where the hospital is getting their money. Because the hospital it takes forever for hospitals to get paid as well. So what they're doing is they're actually matching their outflows with their inflows, which is another thing that entrepreneurs need to think about is, managing your payables, the amount you owe and the amount you pay other people. That money has to be there so that the time lag has to be in line with the accounts receivables. If you pay everybody right away, but you don't get paid for 120 days, right, then you're effectively financing your vendors, and that can be very expensive. So it may be that it makes more sense for the hospital to pay more money, but not pay for 120 days because that's when they get their money.
Yeah, you can get down a rabbit hole really quick that way and into all kinds of trouble.
That's correct. That's right, Bill. You get into all kinds of trouble if you're paying out all your money right away. Well, I always pay my bills on time. Well, you got to pay your bills at the time that your money's coming in. Right. To Ken's point, if you're not asking for the money, right, and you're like, well, maybe they're because you put your whole thing, your house and your everything, you're in deep doo-doo. Right. So you want to, as an entrepreneur, really start to take that shift and go from scarcity to abundance, right? And really, and that's a mind shift, and it has to happen. You have to get you're the owner. Go ahead, Jeff.
It's a mindset shift.
It's a mindset shift.
That's the next question then goes to
Mhm.
Jeff is a lot of small business owners. Well, I think I know what I got in there. So how do you get people or help people to understand? I've got to know this balance sheet. I got to know my profit and loss. I got to know my numbers, because most of them are like, I've got this.
Let me chime in real quick on that
yeah.
one. So most people who start businesses from concept to starting to grow, and Joe and Jeff are masters at helping people do this.
Indeed.
If you look at the business machine chart that Joe and Jeff have, you will be amazed at how many different things you need to take into consideration when building a business. Most importantly, have a plan and processes and procedures that are repeatable. I'm having good memory so far, Joe.
Yeah.
We only talked about this yesterday, but and Joe was showing us this technique. So what a lot of small business people starting up run into is it's overwhelming how much you need to know, and you may not know what you need to know. Right. And most often, and I guarantee you don't know everything you need to know to start a business. But and again, Joe and Jeff are masters at helping people. And there's that chart that you're seeing up on the screen right now, the business machine.
I'll put it up there.
It's Joe was showing it to me and explaining it to me yesterday, and I'm a finance guy from 37 plus years, and I'm sitting here going, wow. Now a lot of these things we do naturally, but there's simple things small business owners don't do. I talked to a friend of mine owns a business, and I said, how much you charge when you send a truck out for a service call? He's like, oh, $70. I said, okay, how much does it cost you to send that truck out? And he just looked at me and said, what? And I said, so how can you not so how do you come up with the $70 fee that you charge? He goes, that's what everybody charges in our industry. He goes, but if we're losing money, we'll make it up in the call. There's always something that we charge for, and we make it up in the call. I go, but it's still, you need to know how much it costs you to send that truck out.
And how many calls then actually do pay for themselves, and know that, because it may be that the price is $70. The price is the price, but then you have to figure out, are you actually upselling as much as you need to upsell so that you actually make money on average by having those calls, right? Well, and you'll see one of the sections of the machines is your metrics and money. And you got to have those metrics. You got to know what it is. And if you're starting a business and you don't have somebody managing the books and capturing this information and making it work, you're just setting yourself up for failure,
You are. And if you're pricing your service call out because that's what the industry does is standard, you're not setting yourself apart. If you're going to be setting all of your pricing out based on industry standards, you're not setting yourself out apart from others, and then I can call anybody, right? Anybody in your industry, if they're all going to charge the same, why do I want to call you when I can call my local guy to work with, right?
We're working with a company right now, and we've helped them differentiate themselves so much that they're charging about 40 or 50% more than their competitors in the area where they are in, and they're crushing it.
Well, they're probably bringing a better quality.
They are.
They're bringing more to the table for the money. When you're charging the same as everybody else, you're telling everybody else that you're really no different.
Yeah.
And people will pay for quality, and they should.
And quality is often specificity. So quality is often the ability to actually solve a real problem that I have. And one of the things that we come across all the time is people do good work, but they are customer agnostic. They'll do it for anybody. And it's really hard for you to differentiate there. Whereas if you go in and you actually do quality work for one type of customer, then you can get really good at that one type of work. Your cost comes down and you can charge a premium price because you know that you're better than anybody else in the market. Everybody else is going around, I'm agnostic, I do this for everybody. You can go in and say, I do this for you, exactly for you. I give you value, this in this way. This is what you're going to get from me. And people are happy to pay a premium price for that.
One of the biggest mistakes new business owners make. They put a shingle up and they say, okay, all ye come my way.
Yeah.
Take anybody. And Jeff, you make a phenomenal point. Focus, laser focus, target market, and then do it close in. Don't try to reach too far out. You can grow over time, but we talked about this, Joe, is having a repeatable processes, procedures that are successful, so that if there is a breakdown in the system at any time, you can go back over that, and you can find out where that breakdown happened, fix it, move on. But that's a big thing Joe I know teaches. And but what are some other common mistakes that small business owners make by not knowing their sheets or not looking at them?
Well, I think one of the interesting things, and you just brought that up, is understanding your variable costs versus your fixed costs. Because you want to understand, one of the problems that I see is actually people who start to know their numbers, then what they'll do is they'll allocate all of their cost to across their customers, right? And they're including fixed cost in that. So let's say that you go out and you rent a new space. Right. So you rent a new space, all of a sudden your allocation of that cost per customer is going to go up because this is a new space.
Yeah.
Right. And so then you might look at the next customer that you hire and you say, oh, well, I'm not making enough money because I rented this new space. But what you really want to make sure of is that you're covering your variable cost. Right, the money that's going to delivering that service or producing that product is actually paid for, and that there is a contribution margin, which is that margin between that variable cost and your price. And that contribution margin goes towards paying for your fixed cost. And it's that allocation of cost that I find trips people up all the time. In fact, I find it trips people up in businesses of all sizes. I've worked with Fortune 500 firms that are closing down business units because they haven't properly thought through the variable versus fixed cost issue. And so that's another one to keep.
This is really key. I'm sorry, Bill, but this is really key what Jeff is saying to get your head wrapped around. You might have a couple of clients that are not profitable, but they're helping you pay for everything else.
Yeah.
And if you fire those clients, right, you may end up shooting yourself in the foot because now you have to distribute the costs that they were helping you pay for. They were helping you pay for. You now have to distribute it amongst the profitable clients, and then out goes all your profit.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to, not knowing this will have you make brash decisions that could potentially put a bullet right in your business.
Yeah. Those damn variable costs, man, those can be painful if you're not keeping track of them. But yeah, there's a number of ways. I mean, and part of the problem is we love to spend money, right? And like you said earlier, Jeff, hey, I got an extra $5,000 in here. What's something I can spend that on that maybe will help my business grow, maybe fix this problem, or something along those lines. When you have that mindset where you're looking to spend money, you better pull back on that as a small business owner. It's great. It's always good to have excess
Well,
funds in
yeah,
your
I'm gonna caution, like you have to pull back if you're gonna, if you're like, you know what, we should get the latest truck. But if you're like, if we hired these 2 new people, we can get 10 more clients, then you might want to spend that money. You might want to invest that money.
Yeah.
Right. If the
But
brand
I think, Joe, that's the difference between having a plan and figuring out how you're
Yeah.
going to spend the money, and
Yeah.
looking at your balance at your account statement, your bank statement, and saying, "Oh, I have $5,000. What can I go spend that on?" Right?
Yeah.
But if you one of the other things that we see is people just not making a plan. So they're just spending money on something. Say, well, maybe this will work, maybe it won't work. They haven't understood the strategy. They haven't understood how this is going to impact their business. They're looking at something as if it's a silver bullet, that this is going to change everything. So they take all the money out of their account and put it towards that thing. And invariably it doesn't work because they haven't thought through how this comes into and works with the rest of the business. Right.
But I'm just a small business owner. I'm just starting up. I have this idea. I think everybody's going to love it. And I just got to get the word out there and things will start flowing. And, once I start pulling money in, hey, this is great. This is awesome. Yeah. And as long as I have money coming in, I don't even think about it. I don't think about those variable costs and those fixed costs that are out there. It's just, I'm like I said in the beginning of the show, it's like I started here, I spent this much, I took this much in, and here's where I'm at. Yeah. And as long as that's a positive number, I'm all good.
And that's how we end up in the spin cycle, right? We end up in the spin cycle, because how we end up in the spin cycle is like, oh, we're going to go out and then we go do it. In the beginning, we're so excited and full of passion and energy. We go and we get the clients and we do all the stuff, and then we have to deliver the services, right? So now we go back and we're delivering the services and who's selling?
Nobody.
Yeah. Right. So you're delivering the services. And then one day you look at the bank account and you're like, oh crap, there's no money in the bank account. I gotta go sell. So then you go sell and you go sell. Then you run and you run and you run and you go sell. And now, oh look, it's looking good. It's looking good. Okay, money's coming in, Oh crap, I gotta go deliver. And then a couple of clients start leaving because you're not delivering for them, because they got the new and that is when you end up in this spin cycle. And like Jeff said, if you don't have a plan, if you don't say, okay, when I hit this number, it's time to hire somebody and offload this responsibility. So I'm not doing that anymore. So I can keep focusing on the sales. And then when I hit this number, I'll offload this other responsibility, and having a plan and designing a hats chart. So you know what each function that you're doing, even though you're doing all 35 hats yourself, right? You need to know what each function it is that you're doing. And then with your plan, you can decide which of those functions you're going to give away first. And you can invest the money in that so that you can continue to grow. And if you don't do that, that's why small businesses stay small, because they get caught in the spin cycle.
Well, and you bring up a really good point, being the sales master that you are too, is it's like sales for many salespeople, a huge majority of salespeople. I'm selling. Now I got to deliver. Oh, I didn't fill up my pipeline. Now I got to go back and start all over again, filling up my pipeline. That cycle there in the sales world is
it's brutal. And it's why small businesses.
I forgot to collect money. So I've done all the sales and I've done all the work, but I'm not even getting the money for the work that I delivered. But I paid all my bills. So that positive balance that was in the bank account is completely gone. All these people owe me money, but my pipeline's dry and I still have to go deliver.
And I can't pay my mortgage.
That's how most small businesses operate.
Yeah, it is. That's why I felt this was such an important topic, and was fortunate and blessed to have you gentlemen on to help bring this and drive this home to small business owners. It's you got to pay attention. There's so much more to starting a business and running a business than just a concept. And it's amazing. I was at a meeting this morning, and there were a number of business owners, solopreneurs. I said, how many of you actually have a plan? And they're all like, oh, I do. I said, how many of you have it written out? There was one. And that was it. And I'm like, oh, if you don't have a plan and it's not written out, you plan to fail, because I don't see how you can, unless you're that 1%er that is just absolutely so brilliant and has that golden touch, you won't be successful. It's that simple, right? I know you start with that. You've got your 5 starting points, Joe, which we did a year ago this week, and talked all about, the 5 steps to building a solid foundation, getting a business going. Those steps don't necessarily include this topic, understanding finances and the monies and the flow. But that's kind of why I wanted to circle back with you and bring that into play, because it's just too many business owners that don't understand this. And I run into them. I know you guys do every day. You've got programs. You've got different types of programs. You've got some evaluations that people can go through on your website, right?
Yeah. We have business plan. You can download business plan template. You can download. We have a lot of things that people can get on the website.
Yeah, well, the business plan template is a great place to start, because it really gets you in the habit of thinking through what you want for your business and what you're going to create out of that business. So, one of the things that I always say is that there are 3 ways to build a business, right? There's luck. And that there are a few people who get lucky and they don't do anything and all the money flows to them, right? But the problem is you really can't plan luck, right? The other way to grow. So if it happens, great. I'm really happy for you. It's never happened to me. I've always had to find a way to make it work, right? So the other one is that you work really hard and you just grind yourself to the bone and you manage to catch up with everything all the time. And then the third one is you actually plan for growth. You put a plan in place. You approach it strategically. So, on our website, we do have a guide right on the front page around that business machine and all of the different pieces that you have to put in place. So, and then if you go to the business plan on the blog, and I don't think we linked to it on the front page, but if you
go there and you just
go to
search for business plan.
If you scroll down here, if you go to search business plan.
Yep.
And we can make this easier. I'll put it on the front page so people can find it here. But if you go to the 7-part MSP business plan growth template, so we talk about how to grow there, what growth looks like, and our template is different than most, because we're not just saying, identify your market and figure out how you're going to deliver to your market. There's an element of that, but what we really start with is, what do you want as an entrepreneur? What do you want this business to deliver for you? And then figure out how you do the things that you need to do in order to get that business to deliver the results that you want. And that for me is much more important than just the standard business plan template that's all about mapping out things in the future that may or may not be. We want to know, what are the actions that you're going to take right now to get that result that you want from your business.
And I love that, because a lot of people start a business because they're passionate about it, and then they get to a place, and I hate bumper stickers, but I'm going to throw one at you: analysis paralysis. Right? I'm just looking at those numbers, and what you're saying is, out here on your website, if they take a look at the 7-part MSP business plan template, it'll give them an idea on really what to focus on first, because a lot of small businesses, we'll use mine, for example. I mean, it's just something we are passionate about, creating a podcast and radio, platform to get out good content. And, I know my numbers, I know what I bring in, and I know it goes out, and I go, man, I'd like that to quadruple. Right. Yeah. And then I just go back on about my day. But this
you can't wish it to happen.
This kind of gives you that roadmap to say, okay, if this, then that. Am I right,
Joe? Yesterday, Joe,
100%.
what company was making plans for the year 2500?
That was Sony.
Sony.
Yeah. Yeah.
8 or 9 years to develop a plan for where they wanted to be in the year 2500.
Which is insanity. Right? But what we're saying is, you're a small business. You don't need to know where you're going to be in the year 2500. But this next 365 days that are coming up, you might want to know what's happening for the next 365 days, right? The next 3 years, maybe, but anything past that, like we do this exercise where we think out 15 years and stuff like that. But really what matters is those next 365 days. Are you really focused on that, right? And I like you were bringing back before the talk that we had a year ago, right? What are those 5 things that you need when you're going to start a business? You need that defined target customer. What's the problem you solve for them? What's your program for solving that problem? Repeatable sales and marketing, repeatable delivery. You have those 5 things and you put a plan around that, you're going to make money. You're going to make money. You can print money, but you can't if you don't have that clearly defined. You just can't do it, right? You'll get lucky. You'll get a job here and there, but it won't be predictable and consistent. If you want predictability, if you want to scale, if you say, Ken, I want it to be 4 times as much, this has to be super clear. And then you can put a plan around this. But if you don't have this, then you don't really have a business.
I see he's going to go back and watch that show again. I guarantee you.
I still have the notes on my desk.
I watched it yesterday, and I'm going to be doing it again because I'm going to use some of that. I'm speaking in front of the National Business Honor Society here later this month, and they wanted me to talk kind of about how to build a business. And after our conversation, I went and watched the show from last year, and I'm like, wow, that's just brilliant stuff. And it's not hard. It's not complicated. I'm building a new business in financial literacy. We have plans going out as much as 5 years. Now, I'm not a big fan of going beyond 5 years. And I use that old story that Australia was buying nuclear subs and France was making them. And it was going to take 5 years for delivery. And they realized by the time 5 years was up and they were being delivered, the technology was
obsolete. Yeah.
So here's your notes.
Still on my desk.
Oh wow, that's from before. So you have the 5 things that you need to start the business. You have the what you need to build a machine. That's cool.
Yeah, but you got to be flexible too. No plan is perfect, right? And it doesn't always work that way. The money doesn't come in as you expected. You don't get funding right away. Your ARs are now going from 30 to 60 days out, and that can slow the progress of what you can do. But as you get more and more efficient, and your plans are working for you, and you can predict.
Well, how? I'm unmuted. Okay. How often do you look at the numbers? Right. You say you need to know them. And today we've been taught as employees and banking, you don't need to balance a checkbook anymore, right? You just use your debit card and we'll let you know when you've overdrawn, right? So Jeff, how often do I look at my numbers? How often should is it a daily thing? Should I spend an hour on it each day? Each business is going to be different, I know, but for the new business owner, what do you suggest?
Look, I think that you should look at them monthly. Like you should have somebody closing your books, putting all of your information into your books, and then look at them at least every month. So you should be looking in February. What did I do in January? What do I think I'm going to do in March? And it's really not that hard. It's a matter of building a habit, and you keep looking at the numbers and keep asking yourself questions. It becomes a lot easier to do, actually. But I would say at least once a month. And then there are situations in which you want to look at them a little bit more often. So let's say that your accounts receivable is out of control. Then maybe you look at them, weekly as you're fixing that, right? So if you're working on fixing something, if you're working on changing something, then maybe you look at them a little bit more often. And then we look at forecast numbers sort of 3 times a year. So as you're going through and figuring out what your forecast is going to be, we'll look at whether that's reasonable for the next 365 days, 3 times a year.
Well, you want to make it easy from the get-go.
Yeah.
You talk to a CPA when you're starting your business, not 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months into it, where you're throwing a shoebox of receipts down saying, where do I stand? Or now I got to pay taxes. And now I need your help. You're better off getting set up properly by talking to a CPA and working with them before you actually start your business. So that when you have all those things in place, and a CPA can help you do that.
And set a cadence with the CPA so that the CPA knows that you want your books closed monthly. I've worked with too many accountants who they put off closing the book. So it might be 6 months, and then they go through and they reconcile everything. Well, then you're not getting effective reporting.
Yeah.
Right. That's too much time is passing. So I would make sure that you're working with a CPA who closes the books and who gets you those reports on a regular basis.
And to that end, you also want to make sure that your CPA sets up a chart of accounts that makes sense, right? Because if you can't categorize the money that you're spending and the money that you're making and separate those fixed from the variable costs and really look at the things that Jeff was talking about, then what you're looking at if it's just a big blob, it doesn't make any sense. You need to understand where the money's going, right? If you're going to roll that truck at $70, you want to understand what the cost is of rolling that truck, right? And so to do that, you have to have a chart of accounts that separates everything else so that you can then allocate costs appropriately and understand what those things are. If you can't do that, then, I see that happen with small businesses all the time. You look at the chart of accounts and there's 2 categories: costs, expense, and that's it.
Why can't I write that off?
Yeah. And so knowing what all these things are and what the cost of delivery is and all those parts, that helps you really understand what are these fixed and variable costs, how do I use them, so that I find that when I'm in a crunch, when things are tight, I want to look at it every week, right? When things are flowing well, I want to look at it every month. When things are amazing, I can skip a month.
Well, that's a stress factor. So one of the solutions, by understanding this and the value and the importance of this, you're reducing your stress, because you ask a small business owner what keeps him up at night. More often than not, he's going to say payroll.
I know, but then you ask him, well, when was the last time you looked at your books? And he's like, 6 months ago.
Right.
Right. So if payroll is keeping you up, you should be looking at the books every week and understand how you're allocating the costs and why the payroll that you're doing is not making the money that it should be. Because there should be profit. If your payroll is that big, there should be profit. So why is there no profit?
Nobody ever taught me that. And so that's why I don't do it. And that's why it doesn't come to my mind. I don't think about it. And it's like, okay, if you're a small business owner, you have a problem, seek a solution. Don't get on the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back, Bill, to the same thing. It's making that mind shift from being an employee. See, as an employee, you don't have to think about any of that stuff. You don't have to look at any of that stuff. And you have to make that mindset shift from being an employee to being a business owner, to being an entrepreneur, to being somebody who is now on the other side of it. It's not an obligation, it's a privilege, right? So so how do you make that shift? And that's what you have to start thinking about.
Okay. So now let's change it and say partnerships. You guys are obviously in a partnership. So how is it harder to make that shift when I go, well, you know what? Bill's the CFO. He knows the numbers.
Yeah, I trust him.
Is it harder to make the shift?
So why is Bill driving a new Maserati?
Yeah. Yeah.
We all have transparency into the numbers. Like there's no surprise Maserati showing up.
But
our business.
But for most
I actually think, having a partner, if you have a good partner, the partner sort of keeps you honest and you go through the mindset shifts.
Well, there's the accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's that thing, right? You have to be both willing to go through the mindset shift. Because I've been on the other end of a partnership where the partner doesn't want to go through the mindset shifts, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
See, the thing that works about our partnership is that we're in it together. We're really in it together. When one of us is stuck, the other one will be like, pow! Right? We're pounding at it with a sledgehammer, and then that person gets unstuck, and then they move to the next level, and then they pull the other one up. You know, I'm stuck sometimes. I call Jeff. He's like, calm down, take a breath. Here. And then he walks me through it, and he gets me to the other side. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah. I mean, you can't just, you need the right partnership, right? As you're pointing out, because like my partner, Deb, she is amazingly great at all the things that she does that I'm not good at all. You know, and then I do the things that she's not good at. And then there's the things in between that we both have some pretty good efficiencies at, but you know, so, and we're, you know, both very passionate, but, you know, I think that's important. If you have two financial people trying to start a business, who's going to run that IT side? Who's going to handle all the other stuff that I don't know about, I can't do. As Joe knows all too well, I can be a little bit IT stupid.
Challenged.
Challenge.
I like stupid.
I admit it. I'm not strong in every area. I get that. You know, nobody is.
But I think that's the shift from employee to entrepreneur as well, because as an employee, I got to do whatever the boss says, and they'll just keep piling stuff on my plate. Right. And as an entrepreneur, it's like, you know what? I'm not good in this space. I got to get somebody else to do it.
Well, there's two different kinds of people, right? There's the folks that want to be told what to do, and then they just have to follow instructions, and life is not as complicated. Yeah. Right. And then there's the folks that say, nope, I want to do something. I want to be somebody, and I want to go out and get it. Then you have to make that choice to really go after it.
Yeah.
It's not just I'm just going to go into consulting because I was working in the corporate world for 35 years and, you know, I know everything in the corporate world. No, you know everything in the corporate world for the company you were in.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know everything. And that, going back to the thing I was saying, right? You know everything as an employee.
Yeah.
And now you have to know everything as the entrepreneur, right? So that shift has to happen. We have to have those 5 pillars that we talked about a little bit. And then even as a solo, you got to, what you need to build that machine is you need that clear and specific customer persona, right? Like that we talked about before, but you also need the vision, the mission, the values, the strategy, and a plan. And you need that regardless of whether it's just you or you're going to build a team. Now,
whether it's a product,
when you switch to being an entrepreneur, even when you're solo, whether you like it or not, you're going to build a team. You're going to have an accountant. You're going to have a bookkeeper. You're going to have somebody. You might get an assistant. You might get a business implementer. You know, we have those business implementers. They're like assistants, but they do all the stuff for you. So you might get something like that. Yeah. Yeah, but you like that? You like that gratuitous plug? I threw it right in the middle there. but if you don't have the vision, mission, all that stuff, even when you have a partner like you do there, Bill, you need to create alignment. And how you create alignment is that you have that vision, mission, values, and the values is what helps you create that alignment. And then you have to have the strategy and the plan. What Jeff said at the very beginning of this call is that most people don't have a plan. And because they don't have a plan, then that $5,000, oh, look, I got $5,000. Where am I going to go spend it? Right? Because they don't have a plan. They have a plan. They know exactly what's going to happen with that $5,000.
Yeah, I totally agree. It doesn't matter whether you're 1 or 100, but it's important to have it. A plan is not an executive summary either, by the way.
No.
You know, don't mistake those things, or a pitch deck. You know, which are other things that you may need and should have, gives you a different perspective. But are you okay, Kent?
Yeah, just
okay.
Looking. Just looking.
The spider up on the ceiling?
No, I was just kind of looking at it. Just trying to get it to all sink in. That's it.
Oh, you're thinking hard. I can steam coming up.
If they could only see the producer's booth.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Am I the only guy with hair in here? today?
Yeah, I think you are today.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I can't see.
That's the other thing I said. To be great at what you do, you got to be bald. Look at these guys.
Oh yeah, that's all true.
I agree with that statement.
Hair just slows people down all the time, man. That's
Well,
what
I thought it was the trials and tribulations of trying to build a business that made you bald.
That's probably
And then once you get it and you grasp it, it starts coming back.
So you can keep telling yourself that, but
Yeah, I got to believe in something. But yeah, I know Joe's had like what 4 or 5 successful businesses that you've started, sold, and now what you and Jeff are building, and you've really narrowed your niche down to the market, to the avatar of your client that you want to reach out to. But the reality is much of what you two gentlemen have with Strike Grow Manage can help a lot of people outside your niche.
Yeah.
no, yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm just trying
So
to.
the content is about building a business, and anytime you're trying to market yourself, you want to try and market to a much smaller niche, and so we market to a niche, but to managed service providers. But the content, the secret is that the content is actually good for all entrepreneurs. Because it's the same thing. People don't want to believe this, but I've worked in businesses of all sizes, from angel investments to some of the world's largest, and they all have exactly the same challenges.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's the financial literacy program that I'm building. Our avatar is for juniors and seniors in high school. The reality is the courses, the syllabus is good for anybody from say age 12 to 85.
Yeah.
But you can't start a business saying I want to catch everybody, because everybody needs to know this, and everybody needs my service, everybody needs my product. It'll make life better. It doesn't work.
But one niche at a time. You can catch everybody, but you got to do it one niche at a time. When you're doing $1 million in a niche, then you can move to the next one.
Yeah,
You stay with that.
So you know as well as anybody, it's not about selling a product or a service. It's about selling a solution.
Yes.
You have to sell solutions. Don't sell product or service. I still run into so many people at networking groups and meetings and stuff that are still trying to sell their services or their products. And it makes me cringe every time, because now I know I don't want it.
Right.
Because nobody likes to be sold, right?
Hey, Ron Popeil figured out that everybody needed a pocket fisherman.
Yeah, he did well.
Yeah. They didn't like carrying the big fishing poles. So
these guys are too young. They probably don't even know what that is.
Who Ron Popeil is, right? Yeah. Those East Coast guys, you got to worry.
Yeah, the New Yorkers.
Good stuff. Of course, the website has been up there a couple of times. startgrowmanage.com for everything that these guys do to help you out to understand the numbers, to just get a game plan, for crying out loud, right?
Download the game plan. It's right there for you.
It's right there.
It's
Brilliant.
And I believe that's.
And we'll put that business plan template right on the front page. It's not there at the moment, but we'll take care of that today.
And we have a lot of content on the mindset shift in the blog. So if you just put mindset into the blog, you'll get some good content as well.
Love it.
So
yeah, it's important. That's really key factor. And you'll know as a business owner, when you make that shift, you're a different person.
Yeah.
You really are such a different person. And I guarantee you, when I started this new business entity last January, by June, my wife had already pointed out, she goes, you've changed.
Which was followed by hallelujah.
She said I had more patience.
Which was followed by hallelujah. Right?
But you pointed out I had more patience, and I was more deliberate, which is that mindset shift. And that was before I even knew that I had to do that. But because I didn't listen well enough to Joe when I first met him. But I'm listening now. I'm listening now, brother. Thanks so much, Joe. Jeff, appreciate you coming on the show, giving us your amazing insight and helping us and helping so many others, I hope, get a better picture of how they can move forward and be more successful and happy and less stressful.
And less stressful.
Less stress. Yeah, 100%.
That is the name of the game, right? That's why we do what we do.
Enjoy life a little bit.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Hey, we can't thank you all enough for joining us, hanging out with Bill on his new day and time here, Innovative Strategies and 216 The Net Fridays, season 3 at 10:30 a.m. Central, which is awesome. So, guys, hopefully we can get some people your way so that you can continue to help make change and help grow businesses. Absolutely love that innovative strategy. Great stuff. So, for all of us here at 216 The Net, Bill, it's time for us to run. Thanks for tuning in. Until we meet again, please be good, but more importantly, be good to one another.